What's up, guys? We are back. Fitness Profit Multiplier, Anthony and Jimmy. And today we're going to be discussing 3 profit boosting hacks for your fitness business or personal training business. So we all want more profit. You know, what does profit mean? Profit means take home, what you're actually putting in your pocket. You know, people get confused about this. They look at the business account and the business account is growing. So like, okay, I'm making money. But what are you actually taking home? Where is the profit? Where is what's actually going into your personal bank account? Now, we can get into a whole lesson about accounting and how to steady your business and that, but that's not what we're going to do today. Today, we're going to dive down deep on and show you how to bring home the bacon, as the saying goes. So, first profit boosting hack is going to be looking at your payroll. One of the things that I absolutely hate that gym owners do is they put their staff right away on salary. I think that is a huge mistake. I was given that advice by somebody. I believe Jimmy was given that advice by somebody from, gurus in the industry. And it is one of the worst things that you can do for your fitness business. And Jimmy, why is that the worst thing?
Well, you just have to think about it a little bit. What happens when things are slow at the gym? You have no recourse to change the hours of an individual or give them additional things to do that they can get paid an hourly wage for, as opposed to them just getting paid the same amount, no matter if the gym is busy or the gym is slow. So there is seasonality to your gym business. And sometimes you'll have individuals that may not hit their full hours for the week. And that's okay. But when you run a salaried position, you're paying them regardless. Now, a lot of employers and a lot of people in the fitness space will say salary, 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 because it makes your books a little bit cleaner, because then you don't have to go through the effort of like running payroll every month. You just click one button because everybody just gets paid on a salary and it doesn't matter the hours they work. But it can screw you in either way. So you get on salary, or you put people on salary a lot of times because it's simpler for you. Their hours are variable. So some weeks they're low and some weeks they're high. But if all the weeks they're low and they're only working 30 hours every week for a long period of time, you're paying them for 10 hours that they're not doing anything. One of the other issues with salary is that if you have an individual in your organization that's going to take advantage of that salary position and act like they're working but not actually work, and it seems like they're really busy, but then stuff's not getting done, there's no recourse that you have because it's all salary based. So you can't take hours away from them and give hours to somebody else. You don't have that leverage at that point. So it may be a little bit more administrative work to get to have payroll where people actually fill out hour sheets and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's worth it because you're better off actually paying people overtime when they go over on their hourly than paying them salary and having them stay under for long periods of time and potentially take advantage of you. It exposes you to something that a lot of people don't think about.
Yeah, for sure. And payroll is one of the only things in business that you can control, right? And we have to look at it having an inflated payroll. A lot of people have inflated payroll. They're paying a front desk girl to sit there and greet somebody. Every person in your organization needs to contribute to the bottom line. Every employee needs to be able to produce revenue. Now, they don't have to sell training. What I mean is they need to be responsible for things that grow the business. So like a trainer, for example, let's say your business makes $200,000 a year. Let me just do this math really quick. Your business is $200,000 a year, right? Divide that by 12, means you're making about 16 grand a month. We'll just go with even numbers, 16 grand a month. If you have 2 trainers, a morning trainer and a night trainer who cover those shifts, that means that those trainers are responsible for about $8,000 a month each. So that means that their job is to help give you and provide a really good service. So they are helping you to produce that revenue. If your trainers suck and people start leaving from the morning session, let's just say, then that tells you that you're having a problem with that trainer. That trainer is underperforming and you need to replace them. So using salary, again, going back to that whole scenario, salary is just a real easy way to pigeonhole yourself into a corner. And it sounds really appealing and easy. I just put your staff on salary. It's one of the worst things you can do. So that's number one. So if you have any salary employees, I'd figure out a way to get them off salary immediately. Number two, you gotta look at your expenses. Your expenses are another thing that you can control. And you're gonna have some fixed expenses. Your rent, utilities, insurance, things like that. It's fixed. But there are variable expenses that can get cut. Are you using a service that you're not using anymore? Do you have 4 subscriptions to music services? You know, there's things that you can cut that go right to the bottom line. And when you cut those, let's just say, for example, you're paying $10 a month each for these music services, and you have 4 of them. If you cut those out, right, that's $40 that goes to the bottom line, which is right in your pocket. And I know you're probably like, it's $40. If someone gave me $40 right now, I'd be, all right, it's $40. It's cool. The same thing you're doing. It's almost like you're giving yourself $40. So every month, you need to look at your expenses. That means you go into your bank account and you go line by line. What came out? This came out. This came out. This came out. This came out. Right before we were recorded this, Jimmy and I were talking about credit card fees. Credit card fees are one of the biggest expenses that we have every month. And it's a big nut. But what are you going to do? Not take people's credit cards? It's just impossible to do that. So there's got to be somewhere to get that cheaper. Even if we save $100 or $200 every month, that adds up at the end of the year. So you have to do this on a regular basis, line by line.
There may be softwares you're paying for. That's the biggest thing. You'll sign up for this software and that software as you get a little bit more sophisticated with your business setup. And there's been plenty of times where there's softwares that I'm paying for that I'm no longer using, and they come up on my line item sheet, and I'm like, why am I still paying for this? One of the biggest issues is if you subscribe to a software on a yearly subscription basis and forget about it, that will ding you pretty hard because you're like, oh man, now I have this subscription for a year, right? And then the next year, there was a time where there was like 2 years in a row, I forgot about this software subscription. And it was a yearly subscription and I never used it. And finally, I took it off my payments because it was just eating money for no reason. So when you're signing up for software, I would recommend signing up for monthly, even if you get a discount for yearly, just because it can creep up on you. But there's multiple software services that you're probably subscribed to that you're not utilizing or whatever it may be. So you have to look through those line items, and it's probably a good practice to do that at the beginning of the month, every month, and just look at stuff that you're not utilizing and cut them, because it could be $50 here, $50 there. You know, like Anthony said, it could accumulate, and we're not just talking about credit card service charges, but your software subscriptions could accumulate to an additional $200 a month of payments. And so when you're a smaller gym, even a larger gym, that $200 is still $200. But when you're a smaller gym, that $200 really matters, because that could be the difference between you feeling comfortable hiring that part-time admin or not, having that extra $200 in your pocket.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. I like what you just said too about, like, if you sign up for a software or something, click the monthly option instead of the yearly, just for the simple fact that you'll remember that you're paying for it. And then if you find that okay, this software I'm actually going to use and it's going to stick around, I'll pay for it for the year. It's very different than if you just sign up for the year automatically, and then what happens is you forget and then you get charged a year later, like you said. So that was really smart. Good point. And profit boosting hack number 3 is hiring a coach. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hiring a coach, that's an expense. Well, if you hire a guru, it's an expense. If you hire one of those ad agencies that promise you, 10,000 clients tomorrow and you don't have to pay, that's an expense. But when you have a good coaching program, a good coaches that care, real gym owners who really have this business, understand what you go through on a daily basis, a good coach can add a lot of profit to your bottom line, a lot, because they can see things that you can't see. Jimmy and I, we coach each other all the time. We talk about different things in our business, and we're constantly coaching each other. And that's one of the benefits of having a good friend like him. And that's why we're doing this for you guys, because we want to help you too. But we're constantly looking at different things. And it's easy for each one of us to look at each other's business differently than we look at it, because we're fresh eyes. I don't care about the day-to-day in Jimmy's gym, and he doesn't care about the day-to-day in mine. So we look at the facts when we look at things. And a good coach will do that. And a good coach will tell you, hey, John, you're not charging enough. You need to raise your prices. Raise your price by this. Hey, John, you need to switch to this type of service. A good coach. And a good coach is very, very hard to find.
Yeah. And one of the telltale signs that you're going to have a good coach or a bad coach, or maybe not necessarily a bad coach, but a coach that's not going to take you to the level that you want to go to, is a good coach will focus on your numbers, will not focus on your emotions around decisions. Because a lot of times as an entrepreneur, you get caught up in the passion, you get caught up in your name being on it, you get caught up in the emotional response to the things that happen in your business. And a good coach will take a step back, take that bird's eye view, and ask you, what do the numbers tell you? Because you can get emotional about cancellations, you can get emotional about chargebacks, you can get emotional about all the freezes that you're having or an employee that's screwing up. And a good coach will say, well, have you actually had a conversation with this employee? Or is this just an emotional response that you're having to the current situation? And they'll ask, you're getting heated about retention rate. Well, what do the numbers look like? And what did the numbers look like before? And what can we implement to improve that? And give you ideas and thought processes around improving the metrics that you have by the metric standards, not by your emotional state. And it helps calm the waters as an entrepreneur, because the waters seem like they're rushing over you sometimes, and you have these things happening in your business and it feels like it's a house of cards that's just about to topple over as you get more, cancellations one month than you did the month before, or you're not having a good month in terms of lead flow. But a good coach will say, well, what did last year look like? What do your averages look like? What do the numbers look like? And what are you implementing to solve for this issue? And it allows you to look at your business from a perspective of an investor, looking at your business from the perspective of what does the profit look like and what do the numbers actually tell us? Because data is power. If you have a coach that's just going, oh, well, it's your beliefs and it's your mindset and it's your, emotions that we have to tackle and solve, that's not helpful in the grand scheme of business as a whole. That may be helpful for you psychologically, but that's what a therapist is for. That's not what a business coach is for. A business coach looks at the numbers, gives you a plan to execute, helps you execute it, keeps you accountable to executing it, and then refreshes and looks at it again and says, okay, what else can we do?
I'm going to tell a little story here really fast to make this point more clear. And Jimmy, if you get mad at me for telling this story, I can cut it from the episode. So guys, if you hear this and then you hear an outro, that means that Jimmy did not want this story told. But Jimmy and I were in a mastermind group years ago together. It's kind of how we actually met. And we were rooming together. We're in the room. And, we were in the mastermind meeting. It was Jimmy's turn to be up there and talk about things or whatever. And Jimmy's question was like, oh, my business hasn't grown. I haven't seen any growth in my business. I don't understand what's going on. And he went down the rabbit hole of, well, it's because you probably broke up with a girlfriend and that caused you to be down and you're taking it out on your business. So Jimmy and I went back to the room, sat down, and we talked about it. And I said, okay, let's look at your business. We looked at the business. I fixed, like, made a couple of tweaks here and there. I pulled some levers in his business, and everything started to improve. It had nothing to do with what the coach was saying it did. And that right there was the telltale sign of something that exactly what Jimmy is saying. You got to run things by data. You got to run things by facts. Because like Jimmy said, those things don't help you. Like, yes, everybody gets depressed at some point. Everybody has a bad moment. Everybody has things. And no one, rightfully so, takes it out on their business, right? But if you go back and look at the numbers, you could be able to fix things a lot easier than, hey, listen, you got to shake that feeling that you might have or whatever it is. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about that. But I think that was a good learning lesson for both of us to realize, like, hey, how come we're not looking at the data, and why are we looking at something that doesn't really matter and pertain to this situation here? Because Jimmy's business was not growing because he wasn't involved. He was still doing everything. Yeah, he might have went through a breakup, but he was still in his business. He was still running his business. It had nothing to do with it. It's not like he broke up with this girl and cried on the couch in his house for weeks. That's not what happened. And he didn't go into the gym. Then I would say, okay, that's why that's happening. That's not what was happening. And I feel it was just because the coach didn't know how to correct the problem. But like I said, we sat down, we looked at the data, and we fixed it. So like I said, good coaching is very, very hard to come by. And lucky for you guys listening to this, you got two good coaches here who are real gym owners. So click the link below. There's a bunch of stuff for you to do if you're interested in taking the next step. But until next time, Fitness Profit Multiplier, we are out.